Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and of course another video. In this week's video I thought I would take on another topic based one and try and tackle that. Now as triathletes we are inundated with technology from sports watches, power cranks, swim goggles, the list goes on. You know, a lot of these promise to enhance our performance and track every piece of data known to man, and you know that can be quite bewildering, and if you're new to it, almost put you off. So when I thought about this video I was like, right, where the bloody hell do I start with this one? Look, I'm no coach and I'm probably not the best person to give you the be all and end all with it all, but what I thought I'd try and do is give you my thoughts on training with data and not becoming too overwhelmed with it all. I suppose over the last 10 years, the rise in sports technology and performance tracking, you know, it's certainly become a lot more accessible and the market's probably grown quite substantially. Now, if you think about all these gadgets like your watches, you know, they've become smaller, they've become more affordable, and they're certainly a lot more mainstream. And yes, if you think about the laboratory testing that used to probably be more reserved for elite athletes, that kind of thing, yes, that still happens, and that equipment's become a lot more advanced, and it's even more accessible for people like you and me, the age group athletes. So along with this tech revolution, we have all the data to deal with that comes along with it. Now, sports science is a whole element in itself, and I'm not saying that, you know, I have a background in it, but whilst the tech is evolving, the education surrounding the data probably less so, which I think is a fair thing to say. So what this means is it leaves athletes accumulating masses and masses of data for so many areas of performance without actually knowing what it means or what you do with it. Now, having employed data in my own performance and using programs like Training Peaks, I fully respect the value of data and its role in optimizing your performance. That said, data is totally irrelevant if you do not have some sort of knowledge and understanding around it. Knowing what to do with that data is critical for performance enhancement, and having a coach, I suppose one of the main aspects of their job is to look at that data and probably take away a little bit of the thinking and the planning around what to do with it and help the athlete in that respect. It's kind of where they earn a bit of their money. As an athlete, having some kind of understanding is still needed in my opinion, especially if you want to try and, I suppose, execute the sessions that are given to you and you kind of know what you're working on. Now with triathlon, we obviously have 3 sports, which means a whole set of data for each. That can confuse the hell out of you and make things even more difficult. If you think about the things you can record: speed, pace, heart rate, cadence, power, and that is just a few of the most basic. You know, let's not go down the road of things like normalized power, CSS, or, you know, more advanced metrics. When it comes to deciding what data to collect and therefore what technology to buy, I would always recommend starting small and ensuring you understand something around the data and its application before progressing to more data and more technology. A good way to do that would be to start off with data that I suppose directly relates to the response to training, so things like heart rate, which changes and can be used across lots of sports really. Now I know that doesn't necessarily measure performance unless we start to track it over time and you know, we monitor it, but it is certainly a simple way to see what our bodies are doing and how they are responding. And there will be loads of videos and articles on the web about how to train with heart rate through the use of monitors and wristwatches and God knows what else. So I'm not, you know, going to use this video to go into all of that. So quite often enough, and I've been a victim of this myself in the past, we often see the obsession with using data to, I suppose, map the session. So we can fall down a rabbit hole of letting the equipment, the device, dictate the session to us, when actually we forget what this is doing, our head is telling us. I think that training on feel is something that's probably underused, and I'm certainly rediscovering that, and I've mentioned in my previous videos, particularly with my pull workouts currently, that I'm starting to rediscover what it feels like to swim at different paces, and that's without actually what my watch is telling me. I think another point to add to this is, yes, there is total merit in using data to drive performance, in certain situations like monitoring, testing, progression, all those kind of things, but you can often be led by the data on every session. So developing a feel and a sense for what it feels like, I think is certainly useful. I think learning how we feel and what the training feels like are important things to understand in that whole process of training and preparing ourselves. So if we think back to those athletes who are coached and who probably have their training mapped out possibly a few weeks at a time, then the question has to be, well, what feedback is taking place between the coach and the athlete to ensure this takes into account of how you were feeling or how that session particularly went. And what I mean by that is there might be some story as to why on a ride your power data was lower than expected or your heart rate was higher than necessary. That dialogue is incredibly important, and that's a good tip there if anyone is thinking about looking for a coach, and something I certainly have in place with my coach, and I know that other TTT members do as well. Occasional sessions without data can be quite rewarding. I think if you look at them from the point of view of just going out and enjoying the session for what it is, and how you feel, then that's absolutely fine. If you feel good, then you have the ability to push it on. But likewise, if you feel crappy, then you might decide to dial it back a bit. Now, I've certainly learned it takes a little bit of confidence and understanding to be able to do that, particularly if you're a data junkie like I am. But ultimately, we want to balance it all so that we keep some enjoyment in the process along the way. So the gadgets and the equipment are there to help guide us and I suppose show us how hard you're working. And this is where they really come into play, and they can be really valuable, especially if you're not in tune with your body and you don't realize how hard you might be working. You often see many people with these types of devices, but how much they're really using them and their capability and using them informatively, I question. And like I said, if you don't know how hard you're working, then you are going to be digging yourself a big hole to try and get out of. And I think a blend of the two and trying to learn what our bodies do and how they behave is the way to become certainly a lot more in tune. And the more we do this, the better we become. And sometimes we can have a glance at the watch, even though we're not really using it, just to check to see if we're in the right ballpark. And that will kind of teach you that feeling. Right, I think I've gone on enough, and I've possibly gone down a few rabbit holes myself. Anyway, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the subject, and if you've got any, please drop me a comment down in the comments box. I do take the time to read them all. If you've enjoyed this video, which I hope you have, do hit the like button. It is always much appreciated, and if you're new, hit the subscribe button. That's a good thing to do as well. Why do I take these topics on? Anyway guys, until the next time, I will see you very soon.